Welcome to the Motion Podcast, live question and answer session on Thursday, the 4th of June, 2026. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. And this time you'll hear how there is confusion over reactions to the Luce. You will tremble in fear if we were ever given a magic wand, maybe, and why July is important. But Alan, would you like to explain
that
to
was a
people?
hangover. I did not think you were going to read that. I just thought you were going to go, hello, I'm Alan. Andrew.
No. I deliberately wrote it and everything. I thought I'd try and keep us in line with our corporate standards.
Yeah, don't go there with me at the minute. So the plan, everyone, is to basically run for about an hour and get through as many questions as we can. We've got loads of questions. If you think of questions or you have responses on the way through, hit the chat and add them in there, and we'll cover as much as we can on the way through. Did I say the hour bit? I did, didn't I?
Yes.
You can tell the difference between me having a script and me not having a script. It's that obvious.
Well, do we want to start with the first question then? I'll read it out, and then you can take a little stab at it. It's from Finley Leask. Via Blue Sky. And it is, I will read it verbatim. It says, here's one. Aside from enjoying the privileges, brackets, and bragging rights, close brackets, that presumably go along with an invitation to a Ferrari launch event and a fear of those perks being swiftly removed, why were all the journalists being so polite about the Luce? Go on, what do you think, Alan?
Well, Finley asked this pretty much immediately as soon as all the videos came out. And since then, there's been a load of other stuff has come out since. Essentially, they were so polite because everything was being managed by Ferrari. It was Ferrari's film crews. It was Ferrari were then keeping the footage until almost the last minute. So that people had very short time to edit stuff and put it out, so that there were no leaks, so nobody found it in advance. The other thing is that people didn't see the car for very long before actually filming stuff. So they'd had a press release. This is all mostly from the Shmee 150 video. I watched it, so you don't have to. And it had all the stats, all the facts and figures. So they'd written the scripts, of course, with all the stats and figures, and then they went into the room. It was like, what the heck is this? So there's a certain amount of, corporately, we can't incur these massive fines or anything like that. I can't be the one that gets us struck off Ferrari's visiting list for people from some of the big corporations, the bigger publishers and groups. And also the fact that there was a lot of shock and surprise at what it looked like, and they hadn't had time to come to terms with what it looked like. So as a result, they gave us the slightly dry facts approach. And I'm sure that there will be, in the future, there will be more response ones, but goodness me, everybody's got a take on it. I think I've had about 4 takes. As I said in this week's podcast, you want some really bad takes, go look at LinkedIn. There's terrible takes.
It's some of the worst are the people having takes on the takes.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I've just done that, haven't I? Oh. Whoops.
No, but you know what I mean. One of the things that came out from this that I've found a bit unsettling, I must say, because we've experienced much lower levels of this. The fact that how controlled it was, which I understand to a greater degree, but how the whole checking before we give you permission to release information. We ourselves have been approached by a brand or two to do things that we didn't feel melds with our the way we look to do things. So we politely turn them down. But I'm seeing that more and more coming in, and the way that Chris Harris described being vetted as well on his podcast, it makes me worry because I've seen this in other industries. This allows those who say, "Oh, but journos are just on the take; then they're not they're not being straight up and down and all the rest. This gives more weight to those people who want to say those things. And I don't think that's healthy for the industry. I hope the car manufacturers pay attention and don't just go, oh, look, we control the message. Ha. I hope they pay attention to how much damage it potentially can do.
I think there's a bit of a backlash towards it, and I think a lot of people who wouldn't necessarily do that as a result. I think there is a pushback on that kind of thing where possible, and I think that
I hope so.
I don't think other PRs like it, and I think that there was a whole thing I was thinking about. I don't think other PRs like it, and I don't think they like working that way. But some of the what am I trying to say here?
Well, you either trust your product or you don't.
Well, that's it, and I think that was it. I think that they were so scared about it they actually made it worse.
Yeah,
there's a good feedback here from Juanma. It says, I think the Lucha launch was so controlled that people who went didn't have the chance to say what they really thought about it, unlike us common folks and keyboard warriors with opinions. And I think you pretty much nailed it.
Yeah.
I would say that's pretty much it. Because because the large names just couldn't give their opinions, were just unable to, or hadn't had time to form an opinion.
Yeah,
then I think that then it actually backfired quite badly, and I hope that there will be a lessons learned from that by other brands as well.
Yep.
Shall we shift on? So the next one that came in, well, actually these aren't in order. Sorry. The next one came in was from Mr. Jalko from Jamie Cooper on Blue Sky. And it says, you can change one thing and only one thing to improve the car industry. What do you think would have the maximum impact? I'll leave you guys to define improve and impact.
It is about perspective. Thank you, Mr. Jalko, for a very easy one to answer there. It is about perspective. The perspective of those making cars is very different to perhaps, or really very much my perspective, let alone to somebody who just wants to walk into a showroom, buy a car and walk back out again. Thank you very much. That's all the thinking I want to do about it. So from my position, and to pick one thing is very difficult because as I think I made it clear in the JLR comments last time we did this, I feel there are many issues out there that are very, very important. But one for me that really, 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 really scares me at the minute is software. And I think the one way to improve, one thing I want them to improve is not that you remove all software, because that's totally unrealistic and it's ridiculous to suggest that. But to somehow get every executive board of every brand and every senior manager to understand just how dangerous what they are pushing is, because they just do not understand software. And from speaking to enough security researchers that I have and enough people in the background of things, the car industry software is a house of cards built on shifting sand. And we're lucky more things don't go wrong more often.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I joked before and commented on the whole security through obscurity, and then stuff's not as obscure as it was. And how that has had a lot to do with it in sort of automotive software and all that kind of thing.
So how about you? What
me?
Is there one?
I haven't really thought.
Is there one outstanding? Well, because the problem is it's so difficult. Like, we talk about so many things every week. You go, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Why are you doing it like that? And we know this from our professional lives, let alone from as a consumer who goes, well, hang on, that's made a worse experience for me. Why are you doing that?
So I have one, and that's, I think, that I don't understand why when we go off to buy a car, we have to try to barter about it. If I go off to buy most things new, right, that's the price that it is. Even up to a house. This is a new build house. This is how much a new build house costs. These are the options. You take it or you leave it.
And occasionally you get money off for this week.
And occasionally there's a money off offer. There's some, and that's fine. That's different. But
you don't have a chat with the Tesco cashier and go, "Oh, no, you've just told me it's 80 quid. How about 70? Come on."
Yeah, how about 75 quid? So I hate that about the car industry, about buying cars, buying new cars, and even buying used cars, to be perfectly honest. I really dislike that. I think getting rid of that kind of thing would have a positive effect on people and how people buy cars and all that kind of thing. Being able to know the price and know how much something's going to cost would be the one that I would go for. I definitely found that in the US. Buying my first car out there was horrible. Buying the second one, which was from a fixed price place, was significantly easier, and I knew how much I was going to pay. I paid that much. Ta-da! I walked away a happy customer. Does that answer the question, do you think?
I think so. Do you want me to go on to the next one?
Yeah, on you go.
Okay, from Watchman Vimes, Paul, again from Blue Sky. Thank you very much for sending the question in. Again, another really easy one. What features or trend would you remove / reintroduce or reverse to create the best car for now, brackets, family, city, GT or whatever, close brackets? For example, my 1997 M3 flows down the road on 17-inch rims, which were sized to go over the brakes, not instead because marketing demanded 20-inch wheels. Low unsprung weight, adequate 40 sections rubber,
I'm sorry, Paul, you're just showing off here.
Or increasing mass drives, huge pillars for rollover protection necessitating blind spot and auto braking systems because you can no longer see out of the thing. Some of the things you've described, though, are for betterment.
They are. Yeah, yes, I guess they are.
The structural integrity, yes, I think that's
that is important. I don't like leather seats. There we go. I have this whole thing about leather seats. I much prefer cloth seats, especially nowadays. They're all going to use pleather. But if you get rid of leather on seats, you get rid of so many other problems. So if you take it off, for example, then your seats are automatically warmer in the winter because you're not getting in and sitting on this cold, hard, shiny surface. They're also so you can get rid of seat heaters. They're also
which are heavy.
They're also cooler in the summer, so you don't need air blowing up your bum. We've managed that for a long, long, long time, but now some of us have cars that do that kind of thing. And then, so after that, I tend to pretty much always be the only driver in my car. So, to be honest, I don't need electric seats, and I don't need electric seats with memories. And I know that many of you will probably disagree with that, especially those of you who share cars with somebody who's a different size. But yeah, I don't need electric seats with memories. That gets rid of a whole load more weight. And everything. So I'm big on taking out some of that useless junk. The flip side of that, of course, is even with an EV, if you've got electric, if you've got cloth seats, then you don't need as much of that kit either, do you?
No, I don't think so.
That's something. It's just a little thing that really bugs me. But I agree with Paul on the grossly oversized alloys with no tires and all that kind of thing as well. But my one is, I have a real thing about leather seats these days.
I found this one very hard to answer. I think for me, I'd put the brake on ADAS. No pun intended. Sorry. God. I'd put the brake on ADAS.
It took me a while there.
Because it's clearly not working. It's not working so much so that which will probably be in next week's show, but I've seen there's preliminary road incident figures are out for last year.
All right.
And there's plenty of safety organizations that are saying, look, we've plateaued, we're not getting any better, we need to talk about this. And they're the same organizations that have demanded and ghosted me when I've said ADAS does not work as it is. And now to the point where you've got Thatcham and Euro NCAP saying, it's not fit for road use. Bearing in mind, only a few months ago, they slagged off every journalist and every social media platform by saying that's why people are switching it off. That's why we aren't bringing down the figures. And now they're changing their tests in line with that. And we need to go back and we need to have a different development process and standard.
Okay. So last weekend I took my mum's car to wash it. In fact, I couldn't find a decent jet wash, so actually I got some other people to wash it. And don't worry about the paintwork, everyone, because it's suitably trashed anyway. But then I went and I parked. I went off to buy some stuff. I came back to the car. A lady came out of an old elderly lady came out to another shop, and she came over and said, "Excuse me, is this your car? Is this your Toyota?" I said, "Well, yeah, kind of." And she wanted to know. Well, first of all, she had this funny light had just come on the dashboard, and it was on all the time, and she didn't know what it meant and what she should do about it. It turned out it was the low tire pressure. Okay. That, by the way, is something else that can just get in the ruddy bin. Sorry, tire pressure monitoring systems are just awful.
I wholeheartedly, as you saw when you were in my car a couple of weeks ago, I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yes, yours is being very special at the minute, but mine, neither of mine have it. I managed to avoid it, and yeah, it was that. And then she said, "Oh, this car, I really like it, but it makes so many noises, and I don't know what any of them are or anything." And it's all part of that. There's this. You shouldn't need a re-education. Was really my feeling. I tried to explain to you. If you hold that for 2 seconds, it'll go off and it won't ping at you.
I don't have a problem with that, but as long as they are actually giving a re-education. But most places who sell the car on don't do that because they don't understand it themselves, or it's that's an extra faff for them. But yeah, that would be my one thing is let's start again. I don't object to the idea of what is being proposed. The problem is it is like with autonomous vehicles, it has been developed in a way that means it will never work.
Yeah. Okay. Should we take one from the chat now? Should we take Ian's? So Ian here.
Hi, Ian.
Hi, Ian. Let me try and get rid of that banner now. Oh boy, I've been too clever by half. There we are. Right. Ian says, "Even James, what's your view on the new Bentley Supersport rear-wheel drive sub 2-ton weapon they're releasing?" Now, Ian, we know where you work, okay?
But also, we have a show next week to go out, which this may or may not be featuring in new car news.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't looked that far ahead, you see. So we're not ignoring you. We will answer, but we'll answer in next week's news show.
Yeah. Do you want to take the one at the bottom then now and use that?
I was going to.
Yeah.
So AKLC 4090. I'm sorry, I don't recognize your username. At what point do you think car designers decided that beauty wasn't a priority? Well, I think it depends which designers, really, doesn't it? Are you counting back the years now?
Yeah, because you look like this whole society reflecting in cars reflecting society conversation that we need to have with Dr. Jonathan Kershaw.
Yeah.
We need him on the show, actually. We need to do a special edition about that. And some other designers, because it's a really interesting question, especially when you walk around everywhere with a hammer. Everything looks like a nail. So I always try and bring everything back to the car industry. As my family will tell you.
Yes, yes, I'm aware of this.
I think it's around just after 20, well, around 2016, because if you remember, everybody was shouting at each other across the globe. We had Brexit things. There was stuff happening in America with elections, with a new president. There was an anger everywhere. There was and because of 2008 and the way governments reacted to that, everyone suddenly went, well, I've got to look after myself and screw everyone else.
Yeah, you're going a bit later than me, because I would say that it started a bit earlier. For me, and this has turned into a painfully more sort of sociological question here.
Yeah.
In that, for me, everyone was still happy in 2012. 2012 was a happy year, and I think it's sometime between 2012 and Europe.
That was the Olympics, wasn't it?
That was the Olympics.
For me, that was the last time the UK
that last big
was
super positive
actually
thing,
together and positive.
But I think we're possibly overthinking this one. I think it started about then. There was some stuff that was aggressive already, and that was all right.
Aggressive is one thing.
But there was still lots of happy stuff, you see.
Mm.
And then I think that being imposing, that was around the point where being imposing,
because that implied safety and protection and all this sort of stuff.
The counter argument to that is actually you go back and you look at the first of the BMW Rolls-Royce Phantoms, because that is not pretty, but it's imposing, and beauty I don't think was a priority there.
But it was a one-off. That's one brand.
I know that's one brand. Yeah. All right. But yeah, more generically, I feel sometime between 2012
actually
and 2016.
Being sold to us, it's somewhere in the 20 teens. We suddenly started getting basically fortresses on wheels, or the implication of that.
Because even before then, stuff like I'm trying to then, of course, try and take that and be more global. But even before then, stuff like Cadillac Escalade and some of these things that people might point at. The alternative is the root of it might be the Hummer H2. But even then, it's all about this.
Again, that was a one-off. That's a snapshot of that thing.
That thing at that time. But I do wonder if there's a sort of knock-on effect, as marbles or whatever, staircase type effect. But
I also think this, when we started moving towards SUVs as well, that made it more.
Yeah. Yeah, he says with an SUV outside it looks like Predator chewing a wasp. So the hypocrisy is high here. That was a cracking question. Thank you.
Yeah,
I don't know if we've really answered it very well, but it's a great question. It's no slur on the quality of the question. Almost got quite a good point here about people internally about who probably shouldn't necessarily have a view or an opinion or an entry point into it. But management should always have opinions. I think it's always been the case. I think General Motors and stuff for certainly the last 3 decades, if not longer, probably longer. But back into the 80s and into the 70s, I think that this has already been there, and I don't know that management and too many people is really the challenge.
No. Alan, a question for you. I've got a question.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you've got a question for me, have you?
Yeah. Are you doing anything on the week commencing the 13th of July?
Well, funnily enough that you should say that, I was intending on taking an electric car and trying to drive around the outside of the UK. Which some people, because we've done it before, and I figure that almost 10 years later, it's probably time we should do it again and see what's changed.
That sounds like a cracking idea. Well, let me just check my diary. but I think I'm free. So, I think that sounds like a road trip.
So is that a road trip of probably daily, certainly YouTube videos, if not podcasts, much like last time, and trying to see if we can lap this island, more or less, and not get stranded in the middle of nowhere in a small Korean EV?
Yes, I think we should give that a go.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Was that an announcement? That was an announcement, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, Charging Around Britain, Part 2.
The return. Yeah. So, some of you may well know, and goodness me, we have more listeners and more reach and everything than we ever did back then. That we went and we took one of the first Hyundai Ioniq EVs, the electric ones, and we left Britain about nine a bit years ago.
10 years in the first or second week of September.
Yeah. So we're doing a bit earlier in the year this time.
Yeah.
Just because it falls in with Danish holiday dates and stuff. And yeah, we wanted to see back then if you could do it, and if you could if the charging infrastructure was up to it, and we managed it. There were a lot of long 14-hour days and very short nights in budget hotels all over the country. And, we did it in a car with just about 100 miles of range per charge. And 50 kilowatt
by the end.
130, yeah, we were getting good by the end. And, at the start, we were like 80. We were terrified. We want to do it again. Partly see how EVs have evolved. We're actually allowed to talk about the car this time, which we weren't.
Yes,
time.
I believe so.
Should we tell the story of what?
Yeah, go on then.
Should we tell the? I think it's long enough now that we can tell the story of why in the first charging around Britain we weren't allowed to talk about the car, and that was because Hyundai had a couple of Ioniq Electrics on the press fleet, and they had used one to try to do a Land's End to John O'Groats to raise money internally. Raise money for charity internally, and the car broke. Now, they didn't tell us that. They just politely requested that we don't talk about the car, just in case. And it turned out the car was fine.
What I was told at the time was, we're not to talk about it because they can't get enough in the country, so please don't drum up more desire.
Yeah, that was in wanting it. That's what we were told before we did it. Afterwards, we were maybe told the full story. I think there was a bit of both.
Yeah.
Because the other owners that we met loved them.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely adored them. Yeah. So this time we're going to do it. We're trying to choose something affordable.
Something efficient as well, because since then, it's very difficult to find something that is as efficient as that car.
That original Ioniq Electric was 5 kilowatt.
We averaged 5.2, whatever the post says. So over the week we averaged 5, and very, very few vehicles now, or since then to now, get anything close to that. There's plenty that'll do 3s to 4s, but they don't do better than that. Okay, there's a few people out there who have feather feet, and there's the hypermiling chap who's on the YEV podcast, whose first name I've forgotten. He's really good at eking out a range and running very, very efficiently.
Although we're trying to he's more economical than that.
Yeah. We're going to be driving it as normally as possible. That's the point. It's just two blokes going around and just seeing what is it realistically like. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're aiming to do, and that's what we did last time. We found many pitfalls, things that opened our eyes that we would have had no idea if we hadn't done that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. We learned an awful lot, and hopefully we'll learn a whole lot more again. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be good. I've just, for those of you who are watching along, if you want to know what we did last time in the summary, then I've put the link to the blog post in the chat on YouTube. No, we're not asking Portia.
Ian.
No. Not even putting that one on screen.
No, we're not reading it out for the audio people. I'm very sorry. We are trying to do this. This will, again, be released as an audio version. And we are trying to remember that there are people who cannot see the screen when it is audio only, but we're not reading that one out. You're very mischievous. Anyway, Alan, after that bombshell.
Well, the next one's kind of related, actually. It's from the Farmer Jamie, and I'm just trying to call... I'm having trouble with our new system, as you might have heard on this week's podcast. So, Jamie has asked... only one of us can copy and paste banners here. No. This is slick, isn't it?
It's all part of the learning process. Everyone's all right.
Yes, apart from when you copy instead of pasting. Right. Anyway, Jamie has asked, what special edition podcast would you love to do? Car, person, or place? And then he's got a second or alternative question, which was, what was the first time you seriously regretted the podcast as a life choice? I'm going to answer that second one.
Okay.
It was the end of day 2 of charging around Britain the first time, when we had left the hotel, which was meant to have a charger but didn't have a charger, before 7 o'clock in the morning, before we'd had any breakfast. And we didn't get into the Holiday Inn Express at Folkestone until... Was it gone midnight that night, or was it just before midnight?
Glasgow was 12:05.
Glasgow was 5 past midnight. I remember that.
I think this one was,
but that one was
very close to.
But it was been an absolutely horrible day.
We recorded the daily podcast in the car park of Brighton Football Club because that was the charger between where we were and Folkestone.
That's true. I'd forgotten about that. And then you did the edit and upload before going to bed.
Mm.
So it was after midnight when it got uploaded to release at 7 o'clock the next morning as the summary. That was like the first really bad time. There are some other times. I mean, the other week going to SMMT, and it was like, why the hell am I doing this? Why am I getting the 11:15 Ryanair flight from Copenhagen to Stansted to then finally get into the hotel at 1 o'clock in the morning so that I could go and drive some cars? So it happens on occasion. But the first real sort of what the hell are we doing was Folkestone. In fact, it was probably Brighton Football Club, actually, because it was getting pretty grim and we still had a couple of hours worth of driving there.
Mm. Well, on that
was the
point,
easier question.
Yeah, on that point for me, I've never seriously regretted it. There's been times where I've had hissy fits privately and gone, that's it, I'm done, I'm not doing it. And it's never been anything to do with Alan. It's never been anything to do with recording the show or dealing with PR.
He only told me this the other night when we were jokingly going through some of these submitted ones, just before recording the normal podcast.
But there's been external influences. Like there's been times when just life has been too much, and it's like I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the capacity. I mean, I went off the radar last year, towards the back end of last year for personal reasons. But with that one, I knew I'd be back. It's just I couldn't cope with doing the show. But there was a phase of
COVID that was looming hard.
COVID was probably the first time that it really hit me, where because we're all trying to cope with the newness of everything and how we were all that I had the added bonus that my brother-in-law was trapped with us instead of living back in New Zealand where he normally does. So we already had a small house that we had now a new adult in, and we're all trying to adjust to all this. And you're seeing grown people losing their minds, and then you're going, one, you think it feels gross to talk about buying a new car while people are dying and all the rest of it, and others are saving others' lives and all this sort of stuff. And then you're going, but I'm struggling just, with the whole situation. And then you see comments from lovely comments. I hope there is no shade in what I'm saying here. There were lovely comments, and thank you for sending them in. But people going, oh, thank God you guys are doing what you're doing. We've got some normality at least. And that's when you get a bit of a, look, this is bigger than just you. Stop being selfish. Grow up a bit. Think of others, and that, it sort of shakes you out yourself. That was probably the first time, but I've never regretted it. And like I say, maybe thought I can't do it. I haven't got the capacity, but I've never regretted it.
Mm-hmm.
How about the first half? Have you thought anything up for that? Because I'm struggling.
I was really lucky because I did one. I mean, the visiting Porsche Center in Atlanta, having a morning driving Porsches with a
tame racing
around a private test track with a tame racing driver in the passenger seat telling me how to go faster and not crash it, and then getting a whole tour of the facility from a school friend was just fantastic. That was such a good day. It was the only special edition I really did from the US, just because in between work I needed the break and I didn't and stuff. But I actually, do you know what I'd like to do? I've just realized it. I would love to go back and do one around the Henry Ford Museum of American Heritage. Okay. That would actually be cracking, or some kind of thing like that. Some fantastic auto museums in the US, and that is, it's not really an auto museum; it's an everything museum. But that is just so fantastic. The whole story behind it, some of the stuff they've got there, and actually, I think that it's maybe not as well known outside the US as it should be, even amongst car folk. Possibly because they see the Ford bit, and that's it. But it's not about that. That would be kind of cool to go that and a curator and talk about some of the exhibits there. That would be pretty awesome. I like talking about stuff. I'm not very good at talking about people, so hence it's not really an interview type one. What about you? You're much better at the interviews.
It's been a while since I've done them. Please don't ask again. I'd love to do them.
Yeah, we covered that last time. Everybody, we cling to the edge.
And I am so thankful for how well Review was received at the time, and how many people loved it, and how many people tuned in, and how many people agreed to be on it as well. It was really amazing. But there's you can throw a headphone in the air and you'll hit an interview podcast these days. If I did it now, it would be different. There would be so much more research done. It would be so much more time intensive. So it's just not possible. Alan knows this. I am very good at coming up with ideas and going, oh, that would be really exciting to do, and never executing on them because of life. The reality of my ability to execute on my idea.
I've learned over the last 11 years. He comes out, you get this email, you get all this Slack message, which is like pages and pages long, as he's just brain dumped onto it. And then you read through it and you go, that's great, that's fantastic, that's wonderful. When are we ever going to find the time to do that? There have been so many things like that. There's so much we'd love to do. We've
got a ton of special editions that we've talked about. Well, we've got a backlog of stuff we want to that we have to record, but we've also got some other types of episodes that we really would love to be able to record and produce. It's time. I think really for me, what would I love to do? I'd love to have enough money that we could have an editor that could take that weight off. Because if we had an editor that we were able to pay properly, then we would producing so much more content.
We're back into the loop we have, which is we don't have time to do the content. That would mean we get the advertisers, and without the advertisers and the monetary income to be able to pay someone to take the weight off us to get the time, we don't. It's a vicious circle. It's always like that. But no, cracking one there. I hope that's been helpful. There's a couple of ones aimed towards me, which I can ask quite quickly. Shall I run through those?
Yep.
The first one, actually, Matthew Lewis sent it via the website. And he said, I don't think you've said much about this on the podcast, but it sounds like you've moved to Scotland after coming back from a couple of years in the USA. Just curious what brought you back to Scotland and how you find it there. I guess it's the twisty roads and beautiful scenery are one good draw. Yeah. Okay. So I was in Northamptonshire for 15 years. Went away to the US for 2.5. I was asked to by work. And then I came back. And I'm now just outside Perth in Scotland. And so I'm from around here. Anyway, I have parents who are getting older and sillier. And so being next to them is nice. And also, whilst I was away, lots of my nearby friends in Northamptonshire, they all moved as well. So they moved to other places too. So it got to the stage where it was like, well, do I go back from this really lovely apartment I'm renting in just outside Boston and go back to my semi-detached, relatively new build house on a brownfield site sort of in the middle of Corby and, not have the ocean views and the yacht club? Or do I take this as an opportunity? Do I take this as an opportunity to move? And actually, I spoke to other friends when I was in the US who were also over there working and stuff, and they'd said the same. When they moved back, they didn't think they'd be able to move back to where they were before because it would be a regressive step. So the next step really was move where friends are, and that's up here, and it also happened to be roughly where family is. So I'm a little bit closer should something happen to them. So it was a whole load of stuff. And yes, my favorite driving road is about 15 minutes away from here. And it's really nice. But I have been so busy since I got back that I haven't had a lot of time to really enjoy it. Great trip up to see Finley, we mentioned already, the last year. Roughly this kind of time of the year last year, and blatting across from here via Braemar and up towards him. And that was just
say it in public. Don't say it on the internet because they'll start putting average speed cameras in.
Oh, it's part of North Coast 500 already, mate. It's just
okay.
Everybody knows it. Fantastic road up through Glensheen. So there was that. So that's that question. The other question. Well, I hope you realise that you've just forfeited the serious question by asking this one. What is the JP in AJP? It is not Juan Pablo. It's not John Paul like yours. It is John Patrick. In my case. So yes, it's Alan John Patrick.
Okay.
There we go. So that's ticked those ones off, everyone.
Okay. I'm going to then move us on to a question from a friend of the show. Everybody on here is a friend of the show, actually. But Jim McGill, he sent this in to Alan. He said, and I will read this out fully. Okay, question for tonight. You have to go buy a normal car, which must have made Jim shudder.
I know.
to type that.
Oh, no. This was only the first message. The second one, he got more specific about it.
Okay.
And a far more Jim-style car.
A normal car tomorrow, so something under 40k or 500 quid a month. First, do you buy new or second-hand, and what do you buy? I can go on this first.
You go. Oh, no, I know what your answer is. Yeah, you go first. I'm refining my answer. I know roughly what I want, but I go for
it. So my answer is secondhand, and I have a hard out on a year, and I would go Subaru Outback.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sorry, Jim, but I have been doing this sort of fantasy shopping for about the last 6 months. So yes. I have had to, and Alan has been the poor soul that has had to bear the brunt of me coming back and going, oh, but maybe it might be this. And then I keep wheeling back to this.
No, it comes for years when he's been doing this. It has come back to the Outback in some format.
Yeah.
It's a very you car, and
I just think it has sidewalls. It's raised. Our weather is getting worse in the winter. Where I live,
getting worse.
The roads are appalling. The amount of flooding locally is increasing. It's just I don't want to go. And I've had experience recently-ish in some. Alan hates them, but so that'll give you a hint of what it is. But some very lovely cars, or a very lovely car, and I had a miserable time because of the roads and people on the roads, and it made me very sad.
Car, that's why.
No,
miserable, unhappy, uncomfortable.
It was nothing to do with the car. It was to do with everything else that we in the UK have to deal with every time we get in a car and go out on the roads. It's just a grim, horrible experience. So have I given you enough time to think?
Yeah, I haven't narrowed it to a specific. If I was going out to buy a car tomorrow, I would be coming home with something electric. The under 40k or 500 quid a month, I think that would get me a nearly new Hyundai or Kia.
500 quid a month would get you an awful lot.
500 quid a month.
Nearly not.
I was naming for the,
it's just which manufacturer are you trusting?
Well, that's it. I mean, it's. And
I'm being serious. Okay, I've laughed, but I am very serious about that.
I know we've just talked about charging around Britain and then charging around Britain the return, but I am a sucker for a Hyundai EV, and I do like them, and an Ioniq 5 or something would get in there. I mean, a Renault 5 EV, exactly. A Renault 5 EV is a strong contender, but it's a little bit small. I think I prefer the Hyundai. But that's where I would be going, probably an Ioniq 5. Probably not an Ioniq 6, because I've now driven an Ioniq 6N, you see. And I like that a lot.
6 is better than the 5 in terms of everyday use as well.
Not quite as wide, because the time I drove a 5 on the public road, it was a left-hand drive Norwegian spec one at the original UK launch.
And but just to be clear, just in case anyone doesn't understand, I love the 5. I think the 5 is beautifully executed, although there are some gaps in day-to-day usability.
But I don't like the 6. I don't find the 6 as attractive. I love the fact, by the way, that lots of motoring journalists, when they leave motoring journalism and they no longer have a hot and cold running press cars, they go buy a Kona EV. That would be a strong contender as well, but that's below the threshold, and I might as well spend up towards the threshold.
Yeah,
that's where I'm going. This is what happens when you get design people in the chat. You see, they've got good opinions. The Ioniq 6 is misunderstood and will be a future design classic, no doubt, when people start appreciating it.
The updated version that's out now looks much better.
I think so too.
Much better, but I think they updated it knowing that no. I'm very confident they updated it knowing the 6N was coming out, so they could make it a bit tauter in certain areas.
Mm-hmm. I've just never really liked the rear of the 6.
Okay,
that's what's kind of stopped me there, and I like a decent hatchback and all of these kind of things. But no, if I was going out to buy something, it would be a case of walking around trying to find something that's relatively reliable, has a decent range, and dealer network, and covering it that way. Sorry, it's not very exciting choices, really. I mean, it's not as if I'm saying, well, I'd buy 20-year-old Cayman, or not Cayman, 20-year-old Cayenne or something, which is going to be hilariously unreliable. I have a Lexus and a Toyota. I don't really do unreliable cars. I never really have.
Everyone.
It's just what the heck's the point? It's my own money. Why am I spending it on a hair shirt? I can enjoy other cars. But, most cars are reliable these days. It's not a big deal. How are we doing? Any more for any more? No? Well, that's taken us pretty much up to the hour. We're 50 minutes. People typing furiously.
Thank you everyone for being here, and thank you all for the comments and for the questions. That's greatly appreciated, because this would be very, very difficult without you.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's been great. Thank you everyone, and for all your comments all the way through and stuff as well.
Yeah.
And amazingly, there's time for more questions when Andrew hasn't prepared 25 minutes worth of monologue.
1,000 tiny knives. 1,000 tiny knives at you all the time.
And still he insists on doing it. Let's round it out to that then, folks. So don't forget that between now and next week, you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts with the show at motoringpodcast.com on Blue Sky, at Motoring Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and on the contact page of www.motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts or YouTube, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Andrew, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me is if you search for Crack Windscreen on Blue Sky, or I am also on LinkedIn under my name. And Alan, if people would like to get in touch with you personally, what's the best way for them to do that?
Best way is generally via Blue Sky. I spend far too much of my time on there. LinkedIn also works, or as I say, contact page of the website. As I said, we'll be back very soon. But until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.